Hey YouTubers, Rob here with another Commodore 64 game. This time we're looking at Creatures. As I've just covered Creatures 2, I thought it'd be worth going back to the original and seeing how it slightly differs. Again developed by Apex and released by Thalamus in 1990. It also got ports to the Amiga and I believe the Atari ST, but those weren't highly regarded. The original C64 version is by far the best. So dive in. Again, unlike the first game, it's a lot more of a traditional platformer. The torture screens and other elements aren't as important here. They come in like sort of the boss, the conclusion line. So, start, we've got our sort of creators room. We see our initial map section. This is only a little part of the map. As you move further along and you die and you hit the restart points, you actually continue. You've also got these little warning about the little creatures that you collect. Those are specifically for buying the power-ups, and you've got music and sound effects control. I much prefer the music. So, as you can see, it, like I said, plays out as a horizontal platformer. The controls are the same as in Creatures 2. Left and right to walk, up to jump, tapping the fire button to use your whatever shot you have selected, holding it to use your flame breath, and down and fire to bring the selector up to change what shot you have on. Again, unlike Creatures 2, where you collected power-ups to get the extra weapons, here you need to... The way it works here is you collect the little creatures that it warned you about on the selector screen, like this little green one I'm about to pick up. When you collect those, you get to the end of the stage, you use them to buy the power-ups. I should say the weapon upgrades. I'm actually not as much of a fan of that approach. I much prefer just being able to straight have everything you need. As it simplifies. That's one difference, is that now you've got 2 hits. What I don't like is you can't really tell when you have been hit. Yeah, platforms are still pretty precise. Graphics are great. There's also some great music. The loading wasn't too bad. Again, I'm playing this from a cassette dump, and I've just lost it. First life gone. Okay. So you see the same approach. So downsides means we have to replay from the start of the stage. There are, I said, it's not. Restart points aren't few and far between. It's sort of a bit oddly spaced. Like it feels there's a really big gap between from the start of the stage to the first restart point, and the distance between other restart points from that point feels a lot smaller. So one of the things I don't like is with this, is that the approach that it uses, where it's this whole the slower movement of Clyde as a character, I really feel doesn't suit these kind of levels. Whereas Creatures 2 was all about, these small single-screen puzzles. I'm doing terribly. Creatures 2 was all about small single-screen puzzles. And so the slower movement wasn't as much of a penalty as a result. Whereas here, it's a fairly slow movement, and you can feel... It feels like... It makes the levels feel a lot bigger than they are. And they're pretty big levels. So that's... It's one of the changes that I feel is much better about the second game, is that it felt a lot tighter with its level design. And another one of the things you notice, you can't easily just walk up the landscape. You have to bounce up. Which just feels a little weird. There's a few little things. It's not terrible. It's different. I enjoyed this when I was younger. As I said, I played it originally after playing the demo of number 2, which was the first of the torture stages. So it was that one, and then I borrowed this and was able to play further. And there's some cool things here, like the little touches with although it's painful to actually line up correctly, although we did it there. And the platform's a little hard to line up with times. So it's definitely a challenging game. I mean, that's not a bad thing. But the second game was also challenging. But I felt there it was sort of a mental challenge in that, yeah, in terms of the puzzles. Whereas here it's sort of more of a dexterity challenge in terms of being able to do all the platforming. And there are moments like this one that frustrate me a little bit. So we come along, we see his enemy. Now we can't automatically get past it, and because we're on the lily, we actually can't use flame breath. So you have to sort of repeatedly hammer the fire button to do it and time a jump. Now I've just found a secret entrance, we've got another set of creatures, which means it's a win. The only thing that's a little annoying is that the scrolling is only that one way, so you can't sort of position back, which means why there are some cases it's really hard to get some of the power-ups. Oh. Unless we could puzzles like that where you have to time, but again it comes down to that dexterity. In this case now, we ended up being just short of a restart point, and we've had to go back to the second. So which gets a little frustrating after a while. And then that. So, like I said, I enjoy the second game a lot, and there's a good thing in terms of the challenge. Sometimes it feels a little tougher than it needs to be. I mean, I also find the droopy shot, as I believe it's called, which is your starting shot, also makes the game a lot harder because you've just got such limited range. So there's all these little things, but again I think they build up to a certain degree of challenge. Well, it's really annoying that, I mean, I think there are things that could be made easy where if you were able to fire from a platform, you'd have a better chance to actually be able to hit something in those cases. Come down. Hopefully we don't. Oh! Well, that was game over. Oh well, let's try this again. That's one thing that's a bit frustrating. You don't get an actual game over screen. It just returns you to the title intro screen. But I think the time limit feels generous. I mean, what is it, 600 or so seconds to play this stage? Which is like 10 minutes. So that definitely shows you how big the stage is. A 4 lives, no continues. This really... I mean, I think by this point, by 1990 or so, games did it was customary to start adding continues into games, as well as making it easy to get extra lives through play. And it's one of the things I like with creatures too, in particular, is that you have those little bonus bubbles, coins, I think. Yeah, coins. The little bonus coins you collect that make it possible, you collect 5 and you get an extra life. And you saw when I played through that, it made it a little less difficult. But here you can sort of see there's a genesis of an idea, it's just freaking hard. Yeah, there's a minor frustration, but the fact that you can't directly walk up a hill is a little frustrating. You have to jump up. It just feels a little odd with the level design. I mean, they've used the graphics and sound really well for things like, you know, nice bright colours. They also used a bunch of the colour blending where you switch sprite colours every frame or so you can get the illusion of more colours. Yeah, they'll use expanded sprites as well to make things a little more detailed, and every has a good number of frames of animation. It doesn't feel blocky. So I really like the style of the game. And it's one that's, as I said, definitely worth checking out. Although, as I said, I prefer the second game. I think just from a lot of just the extra improvements where the focus went to sort of this more puzzle platformer than straight platformer really improved the game, in my opinion. So you can see that bird we can't hear, which means we have to. See, that's one of those just bits of level design that's frustrating, because it's sort of like, how do I get across that gap without dying? In some cases, it is most certainly not worth trying to go for the... It's one thing I've learnt sometimes with this game, it's not worth trying to go for the... Well, you can see how far I've travelled across the level by that point. So last life, I think we'll call it after this, unless... As I said, the fact the game doesn't have continued beats, it's really frustrating when you get some way in and you can't actually resume from where you... not even going to try for that creature. Yeah, this is something that starts to feel frustrating, just... Can you... So that's game over. That's the first creatures. I said I like it. It just has quite a bit of like design challenges that makes it a much more challenging game in a different way compared to its sequel. And to be honest, I actually prefer the way the challenge in the sequel worked. One to definitely check out regardless. I mean, just for even from a presentation perspective, and it's sort of an interesting way of doing a platform with a less agile character. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I look forward to bringing you another game shortly. Thanks for watching.